thank you for having me on. My name is Dominic Gluchowski. I'm a Chief Marketing Officer at CoinJar, which is Australia's longest running Bitcoin exchange. And over the course of my career, I've been lucky enough to be involved in a number of MarTech and AdTech projects in companies like Telstra, Australia Post, but also with smaller businesses as well. So small and medium-sized businesses that are scaling very quickly. So I've seen it from both sides. They are very different. The small business and medium business is very different to a large business. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be able to share my experiences.
To begin with, Dom, how could I explain to someone the basic difference between AdTech and MarTech?
Sure. So AdTech is really just a software that connects publishers with advertisers. Back in the days, I mean, even today, on some websites, if you want to advertise with them, you have to pick up a phone or submit a contact form. You have to wait for a few days. They call you back. Then you have to negotiate the time slot, the pricing, and everything else. And the whole thing can take months. What AdTech allows you is to log in to a portal and say, hey, I would like to target this sort of people across this industry. What ad slots do you have available at what price? And you can just press it, click a button, upload your creative, and you can be live within an hour, which is quite amazing. MarTech, on the other side, just allows marketers to segment and target the audience, and can often connect AdTech to it as well to be able to find similar audiences in an automated way. So some examples of MarTech is email automation, maybe chat on your website, SMS notification or in-app notification within your mobile app, content management system. So they will be like the main ones you probably come across.
For MarTech?
Yes.
For MarTech. So MarTech would be things that you control, that you have your databases and you have your content. So you said marketing automation, CMS systems, your chats and personalization, things like that. What AdTech is you getting your creative and put in front of new people. And Dom, that seems like quite common for marketers and advertisers to be working with these tools, right? So just to make sure the students get a little bit of better understanding, what are some of the most popular and tools used for AdTech and MarTech?
Sure. So maybe before I even answer that, I'm a really big fan of Scott Brinker. So Scott has a website called chiefmartech.com. You should check it out. This is a website where a lot of worldwide companies upload their marketing and ad technology stacks, so you can actually see how everyone has set it up and why and what's so good about it, and they do write-ups about it. So it's a really good resource to start, chiefmartech.com. But going back to answering your question, some examples of AdTech are probably the one that everyone knows are Google Ads, where you can place ads on Google, but also on a lot of websites that all connect to Google. Most of them do, at least. And then another one is Facebook. And one of my favorites is, when you go and visit a website and then the ads follow you everywhere, or like you see them everywhere. Well, that's because that's called remarketing, or some people call it retargeting. So Google Ads does that as well. So does Facebook. But one of my favorites is AdRoll. AdRoll actually, works on Facebook as well. But yeah, there are thousands of different software, and they can specialize in different industry verticals. You might have different software. So for example, it might be software that specializes in finance, or might be software that specializes in only showing ads on mobile apps, Another form of AdTech, which is for business to business vertical. So the ones I mentioned before work for both for business to consumer and business to business. So that other form is intent marketing, and it's based on people filling out forms when they want to find out about product and a service, and then that intent marketing software reports that a certain company is looking for a product and solution. So then you can try to target that company with ads that are only shown to people from that company, and for example on LinkedIn, or based on an IP address that people come from, or it can go straight into your call center and you try to reach people in that company to sell them your product and service. So that's intent marketing. A good example, one of my favorite platforms is Bombora.
So we talked about AdTech. So to some degree, AdTech, advertising technology that we utilize to advertise, and that's all you explaining. There is a lot of intelligence behind. You can go native with Google and Facebook. You can go behavioral based in ad row and remarketing. You go, as you just explained, intention based, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that. It's pretty cool what you're explaining. This is ad tech, so I'm reaching perhaps new audiences or new people through auction based and all this stuff. That's great. MarTech. So what would be, Dom, and we don't need to talk in the details, but what would be the most familiar MarTech technology in terms of big names that you have come across in a career and then you know that people are using nowadays?
Yeah, so MarTech is a little bit different to AdTech. AdTech, it doesn't matter what size of a business you are, but with MarTech, it does. So for large businesses and enterprises, for example, some examples for email automation, and that includes SMS, in-app messaging, it can include chat, it's all integrated together as one product these days. Okay. So they call it marketing automation. So the biggest one is Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Oracle Marketing Cloud is also quite popular, and Marketo. And then you have different software that specialize in very specific verticals. Like, for example, I really like Immersis for e-commerce, and I like Braze for finance. So they tend to be newer platforms that are very easy to use, set up. They have amazing integrations, but they do tend to, be designed for a specific industry more than for everything like Salesforce, Oracle, or Marketo. Then I was going to touch on content management systems. So the most popular one by far is Adobe, but you also have Drupal on an enterprise level. A lot of government uses Drupal. And obviously, I think everyone knows WordPress. For e-commerce, you would use something like Magento. And small and medium businesses, it's very different just because the price point has to be lower. So I'm a big fan of HubSpot, but HubSpot is quite basic. So when you have a business and you need to report on return on investment, on your marketing investment across many different currencies, because maybe you sell to many different countries, then HubSpot doesn't do it too well. And I would probably go to something like Zoho, which is as powerful as Salesforce, but it's at a much cheaper price point. When it comes to content management systems for small and medium business, WordPress, HubSpot, Squarespace, and for e-commerce, I really like Shopify.
Oh yeah, they're doing amazing. Where are they? If I bring this together, marketing technology, or MarTech for short, is all the technology that we use to do our marketing, from holding our content in CMS to do marketing automations and email triggers and SMSs and all this stuff, landing pages, conversion pages, personalizations, all this stuff. And if I can just summarize with authorization to summarize what he said is, depending on the vertical you are and depending of how level is a corporate from small to large, they're going to dictate how you approach some of these technologies, of course.
Yes.
Can a modern company or can a corporate now survive without AdTech, a marketing department without AdTech and MarTech? Like, what is the importance of having AdTech and MarTech, Don?
Oh, you can certainly survive. You know, recently working for a big enterprise company, you realize how early they might be. A lot of big businesses are in this MarTech and AdTech journey. So, there's a lot of large corporates who are just really starting the journey. And before you start, you have to get a lot of other things in order first. And that's why it takes such a long time. So I think, in enterprise and government, we're still very early on this journey. I think small businesses, it's a lot easier because it's a lot less complex, and small businesses tend to be much more advanced when it comes to going on that AdTech and MarTech journeys. And I guess, what is the importance of having it in the first place? So it's really about being able to establish and build meaningful relationships with your customers on an individual level. MarTech and AdTech allows you as a business to segment your audience and personalize how you talk to them.
Yeah, and also what I was listening to you talking about the small businesses being a little bit more flexible, perhaps even more agile in that perspective. What I see normally, Dom, and it might be the case for you, is when I talk to medium-sized businesses or even small, they say, "Oh, we don't get this whole AdTech and MarTech. We don't interest in that. We just need to sell." And then their marketing manager, it's buying ads on Google. So actually, you're already using AdTech, even if you're not paying for an AdTech per se. You're actually already using. And you might have some basic CRM system. You might be using, I don't know, MailChimp for your emails. Actually, you're already on MarTech. You might not be using to the full capacity, but actually you're already there. So it's the kind of stuff that to some degree it's kind of ingrained already. You might not be using smartly and connected everything, and that's like that. I agree. That's still a long way to go. So when it comes to that perspective, Dom, how does a business owner or a marketing director, marketing manager pay for when they're using or when they're using AdTech, and how do they pay when they're using MarTech? How does that work?
Sure. So AdTech is pretty simple. You basically log into a portal. You put your company credit card details or your personal credit card details in. Sometimes your marketing agency will do it, for you. They will actually get charged, and then they will invoice the business. In larger businesses, generally, AdTech platforms will send a monthly invoice at the end of the month. So it's very much like pay per use. With some of the platforms, you might have to commit to a minimum spend as well, either to be able to use them in the first place or to receive a discount.
How about MarTech? Is this a subscription base? You pay like a monthly fee or?
Yes. So with a small business, it's usually month to month, or you get a discount when you pay upfront for a year. That's correct. Again, on a credit card. But once you get to that larger business enterprise level, essentially any MarTech software that's over like $10,000, you usually have to pay upfront for a year. It's generally an invoice. And a little tip: if you ever are part of negotiating for the price, always ask. You can generally get a 20% discount, and the trick here is to ask for a 20% lifetime discount, because what these software companies do, they're in the business of making money, and basically they tend to increase the price of the software every year. So if you just do 20% once off and then you go and set it all up, they know you are stuck with them now. You're not going to go anywhere. So that 20% discount will be removed next time you have to renew.
That's a good tip. No, thank you. I guarantee there'll be some of my students watching this video that we will eventually be sitting down at a table negotiating. What do you advise my students watching this video when they go into a job interview and they talking to the recruiter person, sometimes this recruiter or the manager recruiter is not an expert either. You know, it's not even a specialist that person knows. But what do you recommend someone to be talking in a job interview? How someone can come as confident in a job interview where the person is asking around AdTech and MarTech questions? It's like just do some research before, get the head around some of these big names. So what would be your 2 or 3 pieces of advice before we finish this interview, this chat today?
The things that I do for the interview is go to a website called builtwith.com, and you can put in a website, any website you want, and it tells you what software they're using. So which content management they're using. You know, is it WordPress? Is it Adobe? You can also generally see, well, sometimes you can see what kind of email marketing automation, what type of analytics. Is it Adobe Analytics or is it Google Analytics? And the good rule of thumb is to then go and sign up for a free trial account if you can with some of these software providers and just have a little bit of a play, because what it's going to do is just give you a bit of confidence, like, oh, I know how it looks, I kind of get an idea what it's doing, so it's just going to make you feel a lot more comfortable answering any questions. And I don't think you're really going to get like very specific questions, because you're just going to learn on the job. Every company uses it in a different way, so it's more from a confidence perspective. Another question that you might get on an interview is, how would you approach, the journey into MarTech and AdTech? So the way I like to approach is always to pick the lowest hanging fruit. So to give you an example is, if you're working for a company that has a lot of customers, or maybe a lot of, a big database of people, your lowest hanging fruit is to start communicating with them. So if they're already doing it, then it's about segmenting your main segments and trying to personalize messages. Or maybe looking at your customer journey and seeing how you can improve conversion rates at each stage of a journey.
Yeah.